Guess what, theology nerds? This is Trip, and you're listening to the Homebrewed Christianity podcast. That's right. This is obviously the best place to go for audiological ingredients so that you can brew your own faith. So boom shakalaka, and I'm sitting here on my back porch, smoking a delicious cigar, having some very excellent West Coast IPA from my friends at El Segundo Brewing Company, the Grand Hill IPA, getting ready to go to Denver, Colorado with my man right across here, Nathan.
Yo.
For Theology Beer Camp.
That's right.
That's right. We're headed off to Denver this week, Theology Beer Camp in Denver. The next week, we're going to be in the OKC, and we're going to be blowing up these areas. I mean, figuratively. Yes, obviously. I guess nowadays, you got to be careful with. You have to be clear that that's a metaphor. Because sometimes
Denver and Oklahoma City will be met with fire and fury, the likes of which
metaphorically
they have never experienced.
Metaphorical fire and fury for your theological imagination. And Peter Rollins is joining us. It's going to be a lot of fun. But on this episode, this is a special episode, Nathan.
Special.
This is the 1000th episode of the Homebrewed Christianity podcast world.
I feel like there's been so many 1,000 episodes.
No, there hasn't. There's only been. This is the first 1,000.
Wow.
So, like, if you added up all the episodes of the Homebrewed Christianity universe, yes, I mean, it's a podcast. But you know how, like, there are different Marvel movies?
Yeah.
So we have Lectiocast episodes, Culturecast episodes.
I feel like that would be a fun exercise to do. Is just to assign a superhero for each one of the podcasts.
Well, we can talk about that later. I'm just saying this is the 1000th episode. And it was live from the Wild Goose Festival in the North Cackalack. And what you hear is an edited together version of two different MainStage.
That's right, MainStage.
Podcast extravaganzas.
You heard that correctly.
Yeah.
MainStage.
Yeah. And the heat of the day.
And the pouring rain.
Following a ginormous thunderstorm. But that did trap some people there that were not anticipating someone throwing panties on the stage to Robyn.
What happens at the Goose,
happens at the Goose ends up on the podcast. But over the course of the 2 days that are now edited together right here, the Homebrewed Christianity live experience and the Homebrewed Culturecast, we were joined obviously by Christian Piatt. He was there. We were joined by the one and only Micky Jones. We were joined by Robyn Espinoza, was in the house, and JKwest was there, and he's going to like perform musically, and he's like good.
Oh yeah,
you're used to, possibly people have listened to other live podcasts, hearing the end of a live podcast and there's a musical performance, and it's me facilitating inebriated group singing at the end of the podcast. This is the opposite of that.
It's better.
This would be like a professional.
Although, what would have been fun to have that blues band play.
Oh, Wild Goose this year had a straight up Chicago blues band.
Oh.
And it was off the chain. I know some people were they were a little too Chicago blues for multiple reasons, but I'm like, you can't. That'd be getting mad at the Yankees for wearing pinstripes.
Yeah.
You can't get mad at Chicago Blues for being Chicago Blues. You can't get mad at their pizza for being super thick with extra sauce. Well, in all seriousness, before we get into the live podcast, that is the 1000th episode of Homebrewed Christianity, I want to tell everyone thank you. We're getting near the 10th anniversary of the podcast since it started back in 2008. We are going to have, and I'm not going to announce this, so this is clearly a secret, a 10th...
Is this a leak?
A podversary. A birthday of the Homebrewed Christianity podcast. It's 10th birthday. We're going to have a giant, Theology Beer Camp birthday party.
Where?
I can't tell you because it's a secret. It may not even really be happening, Nathan.
Oh, okay.
But if it was happening... and it was going to happen for a 10th anniversary party, it would be an event that if you listen to the podcast and enjoy it, not going would be a poor life decision Because
it's only going to happen once.
Yes.
You're never going to have another 10th anniversary.
No, and here's the thing. I'm like, for real, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to play my friend card on all of the cool theologians I know, who have been successful enough that they don't really need you to pay for their plane ticket. They might want to come to feel cool. And if all the podcast listeners have been like, I want to go to a beer camp sometime, say, this is the one I'm going to, then I'll be able to talk more of the like super established legit theologians in the going. And then it'd be a giant, it'd be like a Twister in the movie. What was the movie in the 90s?
You mean the movie Twister?
It had cows in the...
Yeah, it's called Twister.
Well, it'd be like that, and then it's wild and crazy like a theology beer
instead
camp.
Of cows, it's theologians.
Except it's theologians. That's a metaphor. People don't expect metaphors like that. They're probably driving to their work, and they're like, whoa.
But in all seriousness, if you do see a cow flying through the air, you should probably pull over, take cover.
Yeah. And,
it's like Sharknado, but like Nerdnado.
And when you hear in this episode the postmodern 8-ball game, what was going across your face as you heard me try to ask Nathan what the movie Twister's name was by describing it having twisters, that is the face Kristen Howerton had while we were playing postmodern 8-ball. Okay, here are the things we're going to say before it starts, because I wrote them down, Nathan, because I came prepared for
so we don't forget.
Yeah, people are saying, people on the internet, either like more intro.
Some people.
Some say, give us more intros. Some say, why are there intros? And there's a high concentration of people that want more intro who are members of the Homebrewed Christianity community.
They win.
They go to homebrewedcommunity.com. They become members. They get their own ecclesiastical title. They're in the secret Facebook group. They get free access to all sorts of stuff. And we make them the intros because they pay for my family's health insurance. So if you hate the intros or love them, you should clearly become a member.
If you get all your friends who hate the intros to become members,
then I'll make a members only feed without it.
There you go.
But I'm also going to have intros because, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. So what are the things coming
without
up?
An introduction, you're like a Marcionite of podcasts. You're like, I only like the New Testament God. Don't. Number one, on September 21st to 23rd, I'm going to be in Minnesota for the Renew Conference.
REKNW.
Yeah, it's like a knowledge, not just renewal. It's reknowledgeable.
With Greg Boyd.
Rachel Held Evans is going to be there. Greg Boyd has agreed at a conference that he's basically the featured person, and it's in his hometown. Has agreed to go on the Homebrewed Christianity podcast to have an argument about process theology versus open theism.
Nice.
And here's the thing. It doesn't matter what happens at it, because I still love him. This is like kind taunting. Like, I want Greg to know that I value him for who he is, even though he's wrong. And that his open theist ways could only become more excellent by getting rid of a genuine affirmation of the demonic and embracing the fullness that is a process metaphysic. But regardless of his failure to understand the complete brilliance of Alfred North Whitehead and Charles Hartshorne and John Cobb, he still is an amazing person, and I love him for who he is. I just want to encourage him to prehend all that he could prehend and let that concress in his theological imagination as he embraces #team process. So
clearly you should come to this.
Yeah, that, my friends, for the few of you that understand process, was called passive-aggressive posture. But for the rest of you, we're going to argue. Also, Theology Beer Camp is going to happen on the East Coast. It may or may not be related to the 10th anniversary of Homebrewed Christianity, but you should go to theologybeercamp.com.
Leaks. You got to get rid of these leaks.
But what if they want to come to their neighborhood?
Well, then they go to theologybeercamp.com, clearly, and they fill out the form that says, where should Beer Camp Go Next. And again, if you get all your friends to do it, then there's a greater chance that we will come to your city.
Of the list of the most popular, there's clearly one city where somebody got all their friends to do it, because you're like, where are all these people in this city that listen to the podcast? I can look at the data. There's a group of friends that clearly do, and they all did it together. But you know what? They're going to be getting an email.
That's right.
That says, do you want to bring the people to the yard to nerd out with your geek out? So you can go do that.
My Beer Camp brings all the nerds to the yard?
The other thing is something that's so exciting, we're not even telling them here. It's going to be in our email.
So you should, if you're not on the email list, you should be on the email list.
Yeah, you don't get left out. There are 36,000 people on the email list. You don't want to be the person that's not on, because then you'll
miss out on this awesome
You'll
thing.
get the emails that say, like, oh, who was on the podcast and stuff, and sometimes we're going to give you away stuff. Sometimes it's like, oh, if you live in an area, we let you know there's going to be a live podcast. And other times, there's completely new endeavors that are just straight up exciting, and you aren't going to find out about it unless you're on the email list. So you should go to homebrewedchristianity.com and get on it. Boom.
There it is.
And last but not least, why would anyone go to theroadtoedmond.com, Nathan?
So they can follow the journey that we're about to take from Denver to Oklahoma City. We're going to be video blogging the movie that we're going to be in called The Road to Edmond.
That's right.
.com. And so clearly they should go subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow along while we attempt to make a movie about things.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if we're allowed to talk necessarily about the movie.
I don't know. There's a synopsis on the website.
That has been edited.
It has been edited.
Because I know some of you looked at it first off and you said, Trip, that sounds creep. And we switched it around.
We promise it's not as bad as it seems.
And the reason it's written that way is because it's supposed to be mysterious. But, I like to think of this movie as, line up all the things you never said as a youth minister you wanted to say. The craziest experiences you've had as a minister, you kind of make them hyperbolic. A cluster curse of difficult life situations.
We need to get an E rating, by the way. Anyway, keep going.
E for everybody?
Explicit.
Oh.
Anyway, keep going.
Well, and then you throw in, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, the movie. And it happens. But in it, the only thing I think we could share with you about the movie is that in it I have to ride a horse again, and I only rode a horse the last time in 5th grade, and I was thrown off of it. So since discovering I was actually going to have to ride a horse, I've had some really weird dreams, and
so you should definitely go to theroadtoedmond.com and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can watch
whatever day
that training.
I am anticipating someone finding it humorous to videotape this very serious cowboy who's giving me horse training before I get on a horse wearing a robe covered in blood. And there's a long story behind that. But
use your imagination.
I'm just saying that I was not made to ride horses.
Yeah,
The only giddy up I have I got giddy up, but it's for something special. But luckily, this is the 1000th episode of Homebrewed Christianity. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you weren't at Wild Goose this year, then you should be there next year, because I've already been getting my ideas about what's going to happen. You know what I mean? But this is Wild Goose, 1000th episode of Homebrewed Christianity. And as we're dropping into it, I want to say thank you to all the people who participated. Christian Piatt, Kristen Howerton, Micky, Robyn, JKwest, and I want to give a shout out to Vanna at Wild Goose.
Thanks,
because Vanna, she's one of the organizers, the gurus behind the goose. She was also the person who DJ'd in Raleigh when I was in grade school that my mom listened to before and after school. So
that's awesome.
I know her voice. And then when I found out that she was part of Wild Goose, I like to give her phone calls just to hear her voice. She's got a magic voice. And she'll be on the podcast soon, so don't worry. All right? So this is for all you deacons that have been here, especially those that are here for almost 10 years, 1,000th episode. Thank you, and smoochy boochies.
Welcome to the Homebrewed Culture Cast. I am Christian Piatt, and we are excited to be recording here live at the Wild Goose Festival. There we are. It's a little hot, a little sticky, a little sweaty, but they did add a little more shade this year. That is a nice thing. But make sure you grab some shade, grab a chair. I mean, honestly, I would think everybody shares here, right? If they're not sitting in their chairs, maybe grab one and use it. Put it to good use. In case you're not familiar with our show, we are a weekly podcast. We are part of the Homebrewed Christianity Network. How many people are fans of Trip Fuller's Homebrewed Christianity? Right on. But we are the Homebrewed Culture Cast, and we do discussions and interviews about spirituality, pop culture, current events, and politics. So it's kind of a buffet, if you will, of perspectives on life from the center left, let's say. So we're going to bring a few folks up. We're going to talk about a number of things today. And first, we are going to talk to Kristen Howerton, and I'll bring her up in just a second. But we're going to talk about, do alcohol and church mix? And we're going to talk about how we function with blended, non-traditional families in the Trump era, where everybody's trying to be delineated and maybe even walled off. We are also going to do some postmodern 8-ball with Mr. Trip Fuller. And many thanks to JKwest for starting us out on the show, and he's going to come back and talk about theopoetics as resistance here toward the end of the show, and he's going to do one of his own pieces. So my co-host, Amy Piatt, yes, same last name, she is not here this year. We're sad not to have her, but she is on sabbatical. And I'm a little jealous, but she's floating down the Rio Grande, so we'll give her a shout out anyway. So Kristen Howerton, why don't you come up and join us? You might know her as a blogger from Rage Against the Minivan and many other projects. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Wow, we have to go all this way to actually get together.
I know, it's kind of ridiculous.
It is. It is. The last time we saw each other was in this very situation.
It was.
Doing a podcast together.
It was.
Oh,
it's
well.
Really sad.
That's how we, it's our grammar.
Coast.
Yes, that's right. Well, so how have you been?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've been really good.
What are you working on these days? Do you have so many things?
Yeah, well, we are recording our first Beer and Hymns live album right now. Yeah, super excited about it. To my knowledge, it is the first recorded Beer and Hymns live event. So that's been taking up lots of time and energy. We're crowdfunding for it, and we just recorded the live album, but as you know, in music, then you have to go and do overdubs and clean up your mistakes and all that kind of stuff. So lots of studio time for us in the next month. And then in addition to that album, I'm working on a book.
Ooh,
yes.
Do tell.
Well, I mean, you know, I've been perpetually working on a book.
Well, everybody's working on a book, right?
I've been working on a book for like 2 years, but it's a humor memoir about parenting, letting yourself off the hook, all that kind of stuff.
Ooh, sounds much like my own parenting memoir.
It does, actually.
Pregnancy, a dad, a little dude, and due date.
Which I very much enjoyed.
Yes. So do you have any idea when that's coming out?
You know, I'm going to say next year.
Okay. Well, we're going to hold you to that. You're going to be on next year. We're going to find out. It better be out.
If I'm not, everyone can punch me in the face.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. Would you want to punch this woman? Could you?
I need harsh consequences, you guys.
We'll move on. So let's go back to the Beer and Hymns thing. You and I both have been doing Beer and Hymns for a long time.
Yeah, we have that in common.
I actually got protested when I did it in Oklahoma.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Because Oklahoma. And it was on CNN. It was on local news. It was crazy. So some people believe that we are actually violating the sacredness of church by having beer in the church. So how do we talk about how alcohol, because it can be a very delicate issue. How do alcohol and church mix, if at all?
Yeah, we have some of the same pushback. We haven't had a full-on protest. But, we get people who come onto our Facebook page and say all kinds of things. We've had actually some local, more evangelical churches ban their staff and elders from being able to come to our events, which has been interesting.
Doesn't that just make them want to come more?
I feel like it probably does.
It would me.
I know. I'm like, okay, bye. But yeah, I mean, it is an interesting and delicate thing because in addition to doing beer and hymns, I worked as a therapist for many years. I worked in recovery for many years.
Right.
And so I know that alcohol can be, a massive thing for people. So we've always tried to be very inclusive. We've always tried to let people know if you're sober, we want you there. You're welcome. This is not an exclusively beer drinking. I don't actually drink beer.
Yeah, I can't either anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No fun.
Boo.
Yeah. So we try to be very inclusive. But at the same time, I think even in scripture, we see that, Jesus enjoyed wine and, his first miracle was, turning water into wine. And it was when the wine had run out. So,
right.
Keep
it going.
Yeah. So, I do think there's an interesting psychology around drinking, and it's like people will say like, well, it shouldn't be mixed. But to me, a Christian life should be integrated at every part of your life, So your joy, your fun, your sexuality, your good times, whatever it is that you're doing, and enjoying, it shouldn't be, well, Jesus doesn't meet me in this arena of my life, and this is set apart. To me,
there's a boundary there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super weird. So it's like, well, if you drink, but you don't want to drink while you sing songs to God, I don't get what that partition is that you're making. It's not integrated.
Well, so what do you say to people who say, well, this is just another recruiting gimmick? What I've experienced is I've said a lot of people say that their church is different, right?
Uh-huh.
Everybody says all are welcome. Our church is different. And then you get there and it's the same propaganda. It's the same stuff you've heard over and over. So once you actually have beer in church, it conveys something. It conveys to them, you can just come and really be you. You don't have to be some avatar of Christianity.
Yeah.
Here. But how do you deal with that question? Well, isn't this just a gimmick?
Yeah, and I think that is a concern for some people who come. I mean, I would answer, our beer and hymns isn't related to any church. So, okay. There's no kind of second step of like, okay, great, thanks for coming. And on Sunday, we really, and we say it even in our tagline, no proselytizing, just a good time.
Right.
We are not about finding people at the door and giving them a flyer as they walk out.
Right.
So, it's really just for fun. And we have people who come who just want to sing these songs for nostalgia's sake, and they would probably never set foot into a church again, and that's fine.
And it does kind of repurpose those songs. Sometimes we'll do songs that people have actually really struggled with.
Yes.
But if they can sing them in sort of a celebratory pub style.
Totally.
They actually, it can be part of the healing process, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and some choose not to do it in church, like Nadia, Bolz-Weber. Mm-hmm. She does it as well. And she does it outside of her church. She chooses to have it outside of the church.
Yeah, ours is at a bar. Ours meets at a bar.
We did ours in a church, and it was fine until NPR did a piece about it, and somebody got embarrassed.
Yeah.
Then that was it. But well, let's shift over. You, like you said, you write a lot about being a parent, mm-hmm. and you write a lot about family. You have a non-traditional family.
I do.
And this is an era where we're being told that we should roll back to all things traditional.
Yeah.
Make it how it was when it was good, which I tend to argue the only people who have nostalgia are the privileged.
Men.
Yeah, straight white guys.
Right.
We thought everything was great.
Yeah.
Because everything went our way and we were in charge.
Yeah.
But the reality is it's not reality.
No, I don't think so.
But it's something that people are trying to cling to, and rather aggressively. So how in this Trump era do we contend with any number of non-traditional family roles and identities?
I think it's really difficult. And I think I've talked about this on my blog before. I think we're living in this weird sandwich generation of feminism where, people and families are trying to be more egalitarian. So they're saying, well, I can work. I can have, as a wife, I can work, and my husband can work and we can be equal. But many of us, myself included, did not grow up with a model of, a husband doing equal domestic tasks. So then we're struggling with what was modeled for us, which is what we tend to default to. That's, Psych 101, we default to what we saw our parents do unless we do a lot of work on ourselves.
Yeah. In our shadow functioning selves.
Right. Yeah. Our self, and we may not even be conscious of it. We may just know I feel weird and uncomfortable, having my husband do all of the cooking and diapering today. And we don't even know why. So I think we're still in this we're not there yet. We're still in this sort of weird thing where women do tend to still do a lot of the domestic stuff, a lot of the child stuff. Men, again, not to overgeneralize, but can feel resentful, or it just is that it's not in their wheelhouse. I still, sign my kids up for sports and the email comes, who wants to be the, soccer mom? Not parent. Not the coach. Who's the room mom, not parent. Right. So there's still this idea that the women will kind of deal with all the birthday parties and the sports snacks and all that kind of stuff. Right. To me, at least where I live, it's still very pervasive. So I think some people are hearkening back to this traditional thing because we're bumping up against this tension. We need to really shift. We're not there yet. So they go, let's just go back to where I stay home. I don't have a job. The husband does. We really delineate and demarcate because this transition's super uncomfortable. So how, as people who are trying to find a more reconciling, just pluralistic community for all people, how do we resist that? How do we push against that in a way, like through our own lives or rhetoric or what have you, in a way? How do you approach that in a way that you feel like you're making your statement without even having to just say, you should do this? Yeah. And I think a lot of it is just talking about it and being willing to talk about it. I don't hear a lot of women, being super honest about the way that things are organized in the home. Okay. I think, people don't want to step on toes. They want to be respectful, but I think we just have to talk about it, and bring it to the awareness. Cause that's another thing. I think people aren't always aware, maybe people aren't thinking through it might be super weird that, this Facebook group for the parents of my kid's school is only women. And why is that? So just talking about it and becoming aware of it, I think, is a place to start. Yeah. And it is interesting. I can't tell you, my son has special needs, and I've gone to a lot of meetings for him this year where I am the only man in the room. I believe you. And it really disappoints me. Yeah. For fathers that aren't there. Now, some of them may not be able to, but it's also just assumed that the mom will go. But I get a little strange looks and kind of thinks, oh, well, I guess you'll do, Well, and I have kids with special needs and also, adoption issues in my family. And I'm in a lot of online support groups. And it's the same thing. It's predominantly the mothers who are thinking through the issues, talking, and I just don't know what that's about. Well, I'm also curious about that. You mentioned that you have adopted your family as a family of choice, but your children look different than you. Yeah, for sure. And how do people respond or react to that? What are some of the more ignorant things, the weirdest things that you've heard or seen, and how do you deal with it? Well, there was a funny situation this week. We were in Savannah and we were picking up keys we spent a weekend in Savannah with my family at a beach house, and we were picking up the keys. And the older Southern woman who came outside to give me the keys said she saw my son, who is 10, pulling something out of the trunk, and she said, "Oh, don't have your driver pull your suitcases out here." Whoa. And I was like, "Oh, you mean my son who's getting his fidget spinner out of his backpack?" He's 10. Pregnant pause. Yeah, as they've gotten older, there's just weird stuff like that where there's just an assumption, or, we're standing in line and they put their stuff with mine, and then the checker moves their stuff back, trying to, separate two orders. There's a lot of stuff like that. But I'll be honest, I feel like that stuff is annoying, but it's like we laugh and live with
Just
it.
brush it off.
Yeah,
Approach it with humor.
Try to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's, it is microaggressions at the end of the day, and it's frustrating for them, but we just try to have some levity about it.
I think that, and we're seeing in this period, this Trump era, that one of our most powerful tools is humor.
Yeah.
I think we see our satirists and our comedians are some of the more subversive disruptors in the best way that we have.
I agree.
And so all the more reason to not take things so damn seriously sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So you're still doing Rage Against the Minivan? That's still your blog?
Still my blog.
Yep. It's fantastic. And she is very funny and very vulnerable. I love what you have to say.
Well, thank you.
And I really appreciate that. Can you stick around for the rest of the show?
I'd love to.
All right. Kristen Howerton, thank you so much. Let's get Trip Fuller up here. Mr. Fuller, have we lost him somewhere?
Here he is. He's over here.
Oh, there he is.
Coming in from the beer garden.
Leave it to me to look right, and he comes in from the left. All right. Trip Fuller hosts
Doctor.
Go ahead. Oh.
Thank you.
Dr. Trip Fuller.
Yeah.
Yes, he just recently finished his DMin.
PhD. Fool.
PhD fool. Okay, sorry. All right.
Twice as long, double the debt.
Double the debt. Well, congratulations for that. And what do you say? And all I got for that was this lousy certificate?
No, you get to wear a really sweet hat.
Oh, well, and the hat, the square hat.
Yeah.
Yes, perfect. Well, Trip, you are sort of, we call you the Podfather. You are the founder of the Homebrewed Christianity Network and host of multiple Theology Nerd Throwdown, Homebrewed Christianity.
Yep.
Can't you tell he's a podcaster? So verbose.
Oh, no, once I start, I can't stop. I don't want to steal your thunder, Christian.
That's true. This is
true.
Yeah. We're going to do a game that we've done a few times called Postmodern 8-Ball. And the way this works is we are going to ask Trip a few questions, which he cannot hear, hopefully.
Start?
He's got his earbuds. No, not yet.
Right.
Not yet. And we ask him a question, and then he turns his music off and offers us a random postmodern question. If you're not familiar with postmodernism, sometimes it feels a little arbitrary in its dynamics. So we're going to see how arbitrary postmodernism can be and still make sense, or not.
Well, I'm just going to give you the answer.
You're going to, the answer.
Yeah.
But there is no the answer.
Well,
in
that's why I don't
postmodernism.
listen to the questions.
Exactly. Okay. True. You don't need to know the
Truth
question.
is oppressive in postmodernity.
There you go. We haven't started yet.
Oh, my bad. I was just.
All right.
I don't get to use my philosophy degree very often.
That's
all right.
true.
Hold on.
All right. Are you in your isolation booth? Yep. He's in his isolation booth. Okay. So question number 1. Phyllis Tickle says the church undergoes a massive garage sale every 500 years. This year is the 500th anniversary of the Reformation. What do we need to get rid of, and what do we keep? Trip?
Your question is not a question, but a silent cry from the creeping nihilism of your soul.
Well, that about makes sense.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. That's actually pretty accurate. Go ahead, Kristen.
All right, Trip. Is process theology a theology of privilege?
Chaos. It's a kind of order. A chaosmos.
God. That one, you need some deodorant on that one, man. Jeez, that was terrible. All right. An iceberg the size of Delaware just broke off from the Arctic ice shelf. How do we approach environmental stewardship from a theological perspective, Trip?
Hey, Jesus, Buddha, and Socrates never wrote a book. Follow their lead.
This is the stupidest game ever.
It just makes him sound super douchey.
Yeah, well, it's accurate. It's accurate. Exactly. Go ahead.
Trip, how does one raise their Ebenezer?
I prefer to defer. That's a Derrida joke, peeps.
All right, I got one for you. If you laid hands on the president, what would you say?
Your implied meta-narrative smells of ignoranto manifest destino.
That is actually perfect.
You're welcome. Professional.
You hit about 20% of the time, so, go ahead.
This morning from the stage, Michael Waters mentioned a theology of hip-hop. Please explain the theology of hip-hop in 2 sentences.
Religion is like a cow. You get milk from it, but they also fart really bad and could kick you.
It was 2 sentences.
It was 2 sentences, after all. Wow. We should have ended with the chaosmos. Was Paul a feminist or a misogynist?
Shh. Hold it. Perhaps.
Fair enough.
Okay, no.
All right, let's be done with this game. Postmodern 8-ball. It's not going to get any better, trust me. So, Trip, what is the next book in your... This is a real question.
Oh.
We finished the game.
He's still listening to music with his headphones on.
Let me guess that it's 90s grunge.
No.
80s praise, wind song.
No, it's that new single that Macklemore did to his dead Irish grandfather. So it's like Irish drinking song mixed with like shout out to the elders.
That was actually really appropriate because she asked you about the theology of hip hop.
Oh, I don't think you should ask me.
Clearly, we shouldn't have.
And you shouldn't ask postmodern philosophers for things you want clear answers on. Come on.
Exactly.
How else are they supposed to continue to write books?
Exactly. Speaking of, what is the next book in the series?
I told you the Homebrewed Christianity Guide for Church History comes out tomorrow.
No, I mean after that.
Oh, the Guide to Being Human. I just finished editing it, and here's the best part. And I was sitting there, we're working on it. How about the way the human beings, the thinking species, externalize their mind in the history of evolution, and then that mind starts to think back via technology. And that's in the last chapter. The rest of it is not nearly as crazy, but that one, oh yeah. Cyborg theology.
Cyborg. Are you
I got to laugh over in the corner, praise the Lord.
Are you Philip K. Dick now or something?
Nah, I don't use words like that.
Philip?
Oh, I misheard you. My bad.
Okay. And who are some of the guests you have coming up on your Homebrewed Christianity?
Like tomorrow or like in general?
Well, tomorrow is good to start since people will be here.
Robyn Espinoza and Micky Jones. They're going to have a battle in Au Contraire, Montfrere. We have developed for years. The last 10 years, this March is 10 years of Homebrewed Christianity podcast. And this past year, we passed over 2.5 million downloads. And so we're going to be revealing tomorrow the 5 big lessons we've learned, as just a podcast network. And they'll probably blow your mind or not, but I'll still say them in the microphone.
Of course you will.
And,
of course you will.
well, I'm not going to tell you everything I'm going to do.
Well, of course not.
It won't be embarrassing if I try to make you do it in front of people.
I'm sure it will be. And yes, we'll just have to wait and see on that one. So do remember to come over. We're going to bring in our last guest here in just a minute, JKwest. But we are doing our sip and chill afterward.
I do have one that's cool that's coming up. I figured out how to fix the audio from the Morgan Freeman interview. You know how you feel like I might have had a podcast for 9 years, but you screw up the audio when you interview
of all
Morgan
people,
Freeman?
The voiceover king of the universe.
I was just distracted by his voice. I've never met a homebrewed Christian before. And I was like, you have now. And then the levels were so low. And all you heard was his grumble and not my questions.
Oh, that's terrible.
So I've overdubbed my questions.
Fair enough. That works.
Whatever works.
Morgan Freeman. That'll be
He's played
exciting.
God, so it's basically a theologian.
You're getting direct. So this is like as processed as you can get.
Oh my! It's too early for that, Christian.
It is way too early for that. Well, let's just stop that and then bring up JKwest. Where is JKwest? There he is.
He was enjoying the fans.
Yes.
Fans that are in the fans up here though are nice.
Julian, a.k.a. JKwest, you did a set last night, right?
Indeed.
Yeah. How was that, man?
Good times. No, it was awesome. This is not your typical hip hop room here.
No.
No,
And that's what makes it great. Like,
there's a lot more patchouli than your average hip hop show.
Yeah, no, it's yeah.
Yeah, man.
But the diversity of seats. Have you seen this? I mean, like,
It is a colorful crowd.
I know.
I mean, like,
The chairs are all different colors.
people
That's
just leave their chairs out. Like, this is cool. I'm from the south side of Chicago. Like, what I'm looking at here is like, what are you talking about? Like,
and it's going to stay.
Take your chair.
Yeah.
Okay. My phone is like over there charging. Like, I would never do that, and will never again after this. You know, like, so this is just great to be here.
Well, welcome to the Wild
chair.
Goose. Yes, exactly. Well, we'll kind of open this up, but one of the things I've been particularly interested in the last several years, you do spoken word, you do hip hop.
Yeah.
But you're also in ministry.
That's right.
Yeah. And so you see this intersection of those where they work in what I would call a theopoetic way. And so I want to also talk about how, I mean, obviously when hip hop started, it was actually a movement. It was a social movement.
Right.
And, then corporations got involved and it became a lot of other things.
That's right.
But, how do you approach your theopoetics, your hip hop, your spoken word, in a way that engages the powers, that is challenging and engages people rather than just something that they consume?
Right. So, I mean, for me, I found hip hop before I found anything else. You know, like the first album that I knew by heart was Snoop Doggy Dogg Doggy Style. You know, I knew every word of that, every intonation, every piece of that album I knew.
Yeah.
And then slowly found less destructive music, let's call it that, and began to find other artists who were telling their story and talking about the world around them in ways that really resonated with who I am. And once I found artists like Tribe Called Quest and Common and other folks,
Yes.
it was like, all right, cool.
Yes.
I found my people. You know, I found my people. And so for me, like, engaging in hip hop has always been in the same sort of radical, in the sense of rooted way in which they do, or those artists who I appreciate most, which is like they're not theologians, they're not poet, they're just people, right? But they're talking through their faith, their life, through their stories. They're talking through
their deeper
mistakes,
selves.
all that stuff, all that stuff. And that's what I try to do in my music. So some people will look at rap, in particular in the Christian sense, and say like, oh, well, my job is to save souls with this rap, right?
Right.
I don't do that.
Okay.
I don't do that. And get in a lot of trouble for not doing that. There are a lot of places where I'm not invited.
You disappoint them.
Yeah, because like I come up here yesterday and the first thing I say is I'm going to tell you all a story about what it's like for me to grow up on the south side of Chicago, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about God. We're talking about all this other stuff. We're talking about liberation, justice, all those kinds of things. But I mean, that's the thing that I can be the most honest about. Is my story, and weave everything through that. And so, you know, I try not to use my rap to do anything, right? Except to do it. Like, I just do it. But here are the things that are meaningful or important to me right now. Those things become an album, right? That's how you get a book, you know? Like,
right.
Here's the stuff I want to say right now that I can't stop thinking about. Same thing.
Do you incorporate it into like your worship? Into preaching?
Yeah, we try to. I mean, my church is not a hip hop room either, but they like it. What they appreciate is that it's me. It's a part of who I am. And so in a few Sundays, I'll take over all the music of the service and bring my DJ and everything. And I'll do this, what I did last night. Mm-hmm. But that's not every week though. I mean, I think my use of hip hop is more in the sense of the cultural inclinations of truth telling, of keeping it real, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, those kinds of things are the ways in which I become the most hip hop, is like to say the thing that needs to be said in that moment is a very hip hop thing. To be looking at the liberation and freedom of people is a very hip hop sort of mode of being.
So it's an inductive thing. It's an opening up rather than a conscripted
exactly
kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
it's hard to argue with art. You can like it or not like it, right?
No, that's right.
Yeah, you can't say this isn't art.
That's right.
I guess you could, but
yeah, no, there's some stuff I would say isn't art. I mean, there's some Christian rappers who I would say aren't artists. They're just like
propagandists,
preachers using rap, you know? And I think that's abusive of the art form, to be honest. Yeah.
I can identify. So do you have an album out?
Yeah. I got an album. It's called Lemonade. Came out before Beyonce.
Ooh. And now is your next one called 444?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm letting Beyonce name her next album first.
Oh, there you go. That was very generous of you.
Yeah,
she called me. She was all worried.
That's
she was
right.
like, I don't know.
Right.
You know,
it was on her agenda.
Can I still do this? Yeah.
Yeah, but Lemonade's been out since it came out Thanksgiving 2015. So it's having a good run. You know, like many indie projects, I'm an indie artist. I'm not on a label or anything. So it takes a couple years for the thing to even get a critical mass of ears before like it can start doing the movement that it needs to do. Versus like a 444, which like probably half of America is done listening to already.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of people will just be hearing Lemonade. You know, people last night just heard it for the first time. And
you're plowing new ground all the time.
Exactly. Which is interesting because it's, you know, I'm in another space in terms of what I'm writing and what I want to say right now, and still performing these things that, you know, these older songs.
Oh.
Which I love, but, you know.
Yeah, like you've got so many new things to say, but people haven't caught up to what you already said yet.
That's right.
Yeah,
don't, if it has legs, use it, you know.
Right, absolutely.
You know?
Well, so you talked a little bit about the dissonance or even resistance that you get to hip-hop in worship context.
Yeah.
But what about the messages of your art in hip-hop context? Like, do you find people that are like, whoa, you know?
I'll find, my stuff is not too overtly, I think it's very overtly theological if you listen to it, but it's not like super Jesus-y, you know? And so I can go into some different venues in the city, and perform with any other hip hop act, and they're like, oh, that's just like purest hip hop, right? You know, it's not like Migos or anything where, you know, it shouldn't play next to that.
Right.
But if you're used to hearing Nas or Tribe or Kweli or anything else, you'll be like, oh, that's that. Right. So they appreciate that message. And then sometimes when people hear I'm a pastor, sometimes a promoter or somebody will get too excited to name that about me and won't understand their own audience. Right. Like they don't care. Right. They just they like Tribe Called Quest, so they want to hear me.
You're an artist who also happens to be a pastor.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You know, so sometimes people will overplay that. But for the most part, I don't see them getting in the way. They really do integrate well.
You see them as complementary.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, the phrase of wearing different hats, I don't even use that. It's more like, it's just life together. You know, like all of this stuff is living inside of me together. And sometimes I'm preaching and sometimes I'm on stage doing something else.
But it's all ministry.
I hope so.
It's all church.
I want it to be.
Kristen, you know, this is kind of related to what we were just talking about.
It is. It really is.
In
that
this
integration.
Sort of,
no, I was listening to you thinking about that. Yeah.
This delineated binary kind of reality, or this effort to keep it that way, versus art that's trying to break it open and liberate.
That's right.
So, okay, so you've done 1,000 episodes. You've got 2.5 million downloads, right?
For 2016.
So tell me that you have learned something in that amount of time.
Yeah.
Pray tell.
Well, look, I've learned that one opportunity you have with a podcast is talking other people into doing cool stuff on the internet.
Yep.
Micky, she joined Homebrewed Nation as a seminary correspondent, and now we're just trying to ride her coattails.
It's true. Now I'm the, famous womanist theologian. And, you just put that on your resume that we're friends, and then it just opens all kinds of doors.
I just tag you on tweets that are unnecessary.
Exactly. Micky approved.
Micky approved.
Yeah.
Micky approved. And, of course, the side bonus is, for once in your life, you get to sit between two opinionated white guys who talk a lot.
I mean, this is so rare.
I know.
It never happens to me.
No,
So uncommon.
I know. We were trying to like break the mold at Wild Goose.
Hence a black woman on main stage. Anyway.
There it
sorry.
is. There it is.
5 points.
I was
5
in the
points.
grass last year, so that counts, right? That's kind of like being on the main
I agree.
stage.
And Christian started his own podcast. Christian and Amy and Jordan Green.
That's right.
Started the Culture Cast. And they've
5
been,
years ago.
I know. So,
Wait, and what else? What other podcasts?
and there's a
there?
lectionary podcast and the Theology Nerd podcast and the Barrel Age podcast. There's a bunch of them.
And I think I'm the only person who's been on all of them, except for I don't know if I've made it to a barrel age because I wasn't around in the early days.
But
but
we would never put you in a barrel.
4. You can't. Nobody puts baby in a barrel. I think nobody puts Mickey in a barrel. I think I've been on 4.
Mm-hmm.
So
You've been on more than I have.
is there a prize? Is there a prize for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you get to sit with us.
Womp.
So,
Womp.
so I
That's
thought
the penalty. Sorry.
since it's a 1,000th episode, I would attempt to come up with some like crescendo moments of insights from talking to 1,000 different like theologians and philosophers and biblical scholars, and they're like new rules for theology.
Whoa.
What?
Whoa. Hold up. New rules? Have you watched HBO in the last year?
Oh, wait, so that's probably a bad marketing decision.
Yeah. No Bill Maher references.
Creative, suggestive guidelines for brewing a theology that doesn't suck.
Brewing guidelines. There
Brewing
you go.
guidelines.
That'll
That
work.
works.
That'll work.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I've actually got some of those brewing guidelines.
And we conveniently didn't tell Mickey any of them.
Yeah, we didn't. So she gets to learn these. Children, earmuffs.
Wait.
The first one's okay.
Do I get to?
You get to have your feels.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can critique these rules
Oh, absolutely.
and tell you if they get to stay.
That's kind of the fun of it.
I'm going to guess that he picked the ones he anticipates you to do so.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
let's do this. Let's do this.
This whole show, because we're already there, is to make us look stupid. So,
Okay.
Go for it.
All right.
It's not hard. So, okay, one new brewing guideline, number one.
Suggestive guidelines.
Suggestive guideline is
Suggestive.
Abba says drop the G.
Oh, yeah.
Abba says what?
Abba says drop the G. You see, Jesus called God Abba. And if Abba is king and judge, then the judge is inviting you into an adoption court where you're adopted into the life of God. And the king is like, you're my child. And then plus, when Jesus talks about the kingdom of God, it's like anti-patriarchy and hierarchy. So if you drop the G out of kingdom and it gets to kingdom, you also get rid of the cock and the crown in kingdom. The hierarchy and the patriarchy. So if you drop the G, you kick the cock and the crown out of the kingdom. And I feel like future theologians should just be like, patriarchy and hierarchy sucks. No basket.
Yeah. Do we have to totally do away with the cock though? Like, I don't
Well,
know.
that's really not for us to say, is it?
I mean,
Well, I feel like it could get reappropriated.
okay. We got exceptions to that rule.
Yeah. Well, I
Okay,
feel like
I before E
it should
and
get
stuff.
valued. It should get valued in different ways, and
Okay,
it should also
yes.
have more expectations put on the demands of your performance than just walking in and think you own the place.
Right. As
Those
long as
is a
I get to
kingdom.
wear the crown and
well.
decide what gets done with the cock, we're good.
Well, yeah,
Well,
that's right. The cock queen.
Praise the Lord. That's not what I expected that rule to mean, but
New hashtag.
Praise.
All right. So the next guideline.
Okay.
It is not a new rule. Stop being Bill Maher. Anyway.
bad.
Fuck Bill
Yeah.
Maher.
So the next rule, I did not need to be told to do this, and yet it is here. In case, I suppose, you need to be instructed, fall in love with the holy Tetons. So,
it's important that
do
theology in the future, you should fall in love with the holy Tetons. And that's mostly because there was this dude named Jerome. If y'all don't know St. Jerome, he knows you. Because he translated the Bible into Latin called the Vulgate. And he came up on this Hebrew word called El Shaddai. I've hung out with the rabbis. They're like, you should either translate it mama's wet breast or the mountains you have refuge in. Those are pretty legit. But when celibate men translate Hebrew names for God. This is like one of the direct names for God, El Shaddai. Obviously, instead of like a mama's boob that gives you food and nourishment and you cling to, or a mountain where you go hide from people trying to kill you. Nah. Jerome translated it Almighty. Yeah. And then everybody started throwing Almighty in their hymns and their prayers as if it was in the Bible. So my new thing is, fix your liturgy. Every time you see Almighty, just say Holy Tetons. Because they're simultaneously a sneaky affirmation of the goodness of your mama's wet breast and a mountainous refuge. And God, we got to reclaim God's Holy Tetons.
Can we just, like, to really make it for the people, say many-breasted one? Because that one works too. And then we all know the song, right? Okay, come on, bring the Amy Grant. All right?
No, I'm good.
El Shaddai, you know.
Yeah.
Many-breasted one.
There it is.
Right?
Speaking of.
If Amy will sing that version, we'll give her main stage for 5 minutes next year. I'm just saying, like,
but
I know where she lives. Let's
speaking
go.
of many-breasted ones, this does remind me of a story, Trip, and I don't throw me off the show, but this one, okay, Mickey, you have been a doula in your life,
doula,
correct?
lactation consultant, childbirth educator.
Perfect.
Yes.
So you are
We've
the one.
talked about boobs before on the podcast.
Oh, not like this.
I think I know where this is going.
Say you had a friend named Trip Fuller, and
hypothetically,
named
say his wife
Tuller
was Flip Bueller, and he was on kid duty at night. And his wife, who had been breastfeeding nonstop, was tired, and he didn't want to wake her up. So, in a thoughtful act of parenting, he allowed his baby son to take sucker on him. And since he wouldn't latch, hypothetically, say he had his son on his El Shaddai, and it wouldn't connect, it wouldn't latch. Say this Flip Bueller decided that making it taste more lactating breast-like made sense. So what is the thing you would, of course, in the middle of the night, rub on your nipples, except for whipped cream? So is that part of the doula guidelines? Is that how you do it?
I don't,
whipped cream?
I don't remember that being on my IBCLC exam. I'm pretty sure that's not recommended. Hypothetically, I don't think it's on there.
Flip Bueller would never rub whipped cream on his nipples in the middle of the night.
What if the son hypothetically had an ear infection and the Lakers were in the NBA Finals, and you knew that if you woke mom up, she's going to be like, I haven't even slept an hour in a week. And so you're just like, suck on this. Kobe's trying to get it back to back.
Meanwhile, doing the round the clock with the whipped cream. I don't know, man.
I just would like you all to know, if you tell Christian something in private, hypothetically, it might escape with microphones.
I didn't say it was you.
Well, hypothetically is what I said.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I know we're talking about Ryan Eller.
Wait,
I don't keep secrets very well, so.
What rule was this? Can we get back on track?
Oh, fall in love with the Holy Tetons. I think we
love them Holy Tetons.
All right, let's move on. New brewing guideline. Yes, please. That is Trip's wife. I weep for you sometimes. God should at least be as nice as Jesus.
Yeah, God should at least be as nice as Jesus. I feel like it's a hobby of theologians to make God into a jerk. And you're working with high quality material. Jesus is like, love your enemy, pray for those who persecute you. And then systematic theologians are like, maybe. I don't know. Like, I feel like one of the new rules for Christian theology is when you talk about God, if you're a Christian, I'm not going to speak for anyone. God should at least be as nice as Jesus. And so that's kind of like God took the don't be a dick pledge. If you're sitting there saying to yourself, well, maybe these people in this other religion or people that disagree with me should have eternal conscious torment. I would like that because then it justifies my prejudice and judgment, and God does it, then clearly it's okay to do it. Then you say to yourself, my bad. I was at Wild Goose and there are these new not rules. And it's like, God should at least be as nice as Jesus. I guess I should pray more. And then like say, sweet baby Jesus, if you could lay it on my heart to not condemn people for eternal conscious torment, to demonstrate your holiness, that would be excellent. And it's a high quality rule.
Yeah, I mean,
It's my favorite, actually.
Yep, that
That's
one
the
works.
one I like the most.
We've
Had that rule for a long, or
I know.
that guideline for a long time.
Yeah, but this is like the 1,000th episode, so
I
it's
know.
kind of like a greatest hits moment.
Yes. And I think it's probably number one.
Which is like your least favorite. God's not as Jesus. Like God's like, you're like, whoa, let me implement the rule.
not rule.
Not rule.
Yeah, the not rule.
The
I
not
don't know.
rule.
Bill Maher really ruined this segment.
Yeah, right. Well, let's.
Fuck Omar.
He also ruined other things.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Namely his
we ruined
reputation.
breastfeeding
Television.
for all eternity. All right, so the next one is make theology sarxy again. Sarxy.
Make theology sarxy again. I know you all remember your koine. Sarx,
Of course.
is the Greek word for flesh. So when the word became flesh, it's important. It did not become human. It didn't become a soul. The word became flesh. Flesh is that which all things that have thingness share. Insert 30-minute aside about Philo and Second Temple Judaism's interpretation of that text. And when you make theology sarxy again, you're saying that the God revealed in Christ was one that was determined to embrace, redeem, and affirm fully all material existence. When you make theology sarxy again, you have to care about the planet and each part of the diverse embodiedness of all living things. And we can no longer use claiming like a monopoly around the Word of God as if the Word of God became something we could simply speak and affirm. It actually became material existence. And that God has given God's self to the world, and that we get this beautiful gift, namely to participate in the divine life itself. And it's not just for us. It's for all the sarxiness. So if you're going to make theology sarxy again, it's got to get fleshly. And if you make it fleshly again, you can reappropriate the G.
Oh boy.
No.
How do you feel about sarxiness? I pressed myself with sarxiness just
Yeah.
because.
Do you have it on a T-shirt?
Not
Is that
yet.
on a T-shirt yet? I think it should be
No,
on a
I'm going to
T-shirt.
pre-sell it to
But
5 people.
But like a crop top.
Oh, a crop top. Next year at Silent Disco, you're going to see me in a very tight crop top saying, make theology sarxy again.
Yes. Don't make promises you can't keep.
Oh, if it's there, I can dance in it.
Too sarxy for your shirt.
Oh,
there
yeah.
you go.
My
There you go.
theology
There
is
it
too
is.
sarxy for sleeves.
That's right.
Get
All
them
right,
jumps
so
off.
Caitlin will wear it.
I will
Where's Caitlin?
never eat again
She
after this
leave?
episode.
All right.
So the last guideline,
Oh.
God is not necessary.
Oh, yeah.
Please explain.
Well, one,
We have a
God's not necessary. God is more than necessary because the inheritance of imperial assumptions, namely about the reality and necessity of God, has created a Christendom that's addicted to authority and privilege rather than one that is committed to the good news being embodied for all people. Getting over the fact that God's not necessary for society, politics, and for people just to be decent gives us the opportunity to realize that what could be compelling is a human community that gives itself beautifully to the living and life-giving God revealed in Christ, committed to people, to overturning injustice and that kind of thing. And when we lock our identities into insisting everybody recognize as a necessary reality our version of the big other, it just creates problems. So we should just stop trying to have fights between an atheist over here and a theist over here and admit as progressive Christians, it actually exists in us. We're all believers and skeptics at the same time. And the beautifulness of the Christian faith is that you can be a believing skeptic that doesn't know what the final answer is to anything, but you've decided to plant your life and your story in this story of resistance of this first century homeless Jew that got taken out by the empire. And God's like, no basket, that's not the end. And so God's not necessary means that you get to say like God's more than necessary. It's not about truth and finality and closure. It's about beauty and invitation.
What I said.
Yeah.
That was what I was going to say too.
Obviously.
Same.
So we got a closing game.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So we need an extra participant, right?
I know.
Wait, whoa.
Whoa.
Hold up.
Oh.
Hold up. Wait a minute. I got an idea that I've been thinking about.
You've been thinking?
I've been thinking. I do that on occasion.
Word.
And it's always dangerous. I have an idea. Well, it's a game, but it actually could turn into a podcast.
Ooh.
But it's not just me.
Mickey cast?
Right, a Mickey cast, because we need another
Mickey cast.
You need another homebrewed podcast like we need a hole in the head. But it's fine. We could do another one, right? I mean, why not?
Philippians 4:13.
Well, you got us. Why would you need any more?
So I would like to invite someone very special to join us at the table who will add even more, what'd you say, sarksiness
and zestiness.
If we have not run them off yet.
Dr. Robyn Henderson Espinoza.
Woo! That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, there it is. The panties. Woo! The panties. For those of you listening.
I mean, always something new.
Was that a handkerchief or were those panties?
I'm just saying I'm a queer theologian, and this is the first time that someone has thrown their panties at me. And I am not even in a bow tie.
Wow.
I know. The bow tie's really, those are really impressive. It's half the reason to follow your Instagram. You get like high quality craft beer everywhere you go around the world, and so many matching bow ties.
And apparently
magical bow
also,
tie.
I travel with beer, so I'm happy to share this with you.
Sharing is caring.
Wow.
So
a whole growler.
The name, I came up with another name. I know we were throwing around names, but I came up with a new name. You remember that remember that movie, White Men Can't Jump?
I do.
So I made up this game, White Men Can't Listen.
But that's not a game. That's like real life.
Oh, that's true. I guess that's
you're
just
saying
real.
we have a chance to win.
Right. Well, you have to prove it wrong. You have to prove the title wrong.
So we keep score by not
you
saying anything?
You have to listen.
Listening is the game.
Yes.
But what do
you
we
keep
get?
your mouth shut for a whole minute at a time?
Does someone have a timer?
I can use
Everybody
the
got an
trusty
iPhone
phone.
these days.
I got one.
So maybe you should time yourself too to actually see if you can.
All right, 1 minute.
Did they teach you how to use that timer, that iPhone in seminary over in Claremont?
But what if we have really great ideas?
Nope. No. You have to actually listen to somebody else.
All right.
Oh boy.
For at least a minute at a time.
What's the genre that we're listening to?
So Robyn and I are going to have a conversation. And then you're going to listen.
For 1 minute.
And we're going to see if you can actually do it. Do you have to sit on your hands? Do you have to actually put your hand over your mouth? Like,
I'm pretty sure my wife is clapping.
Just drink lots of beer. I don't know how you're going to actually.
All right.
I'm almost out.
And I want to advocate for this is part of the process of becoming, right? So as a theologian, I'm invested in the ontology of becoming. So this is y'all's opportunity to lean into your ontology of becoming.
Wow.
Yes.
I can't turn that
Just
down.
wave when to hit start.
All right.
Okay.
I'm bringing Sarks back.
Bringing Sartson back. Okay, sorry. We're just going to keep using that for everything.
Yes.
Okay. First, what should we discuss first?
I mean, there's so much.
There's so much, especially so much inspiration from.
Let's use Wild Goose.
Right.
Yeah.
So much inspiration just from Wild Goose alone.
I mean, even like in the first 4 hours.
Have they started?
No,
we're not started.
This is training time. Yeah. Training.
You on that short chain right now.
Don't come for me unless I come for you. Okay.
And we're not coming for you.
All right. That doesn't mean what you think it means. Jesus Christ.
We're sex positive up here, too. Woo! I just want to say.
Yes. All right. So the first thing is almost a little game we've played here. Find the diversity.
Find the diversity.
Start your timers.
Okay. So this is what I think about diversity. Diversity is just a code word for tolerance. Why they be looking for diversity?
I know, right? We exist. We here.
I mean, a handful of us.
I know. Do we want to play it right now? One! And I know him. James. Do we see more brown?
I mean,
Abby. Yes. Abby's like, hello! The diversity I gave birth to.
I mean, so on one hand.
Raise your hand if you're brown. I see that hand.
On two fingers.
If you're brown. All right. 2.
So we found
3.
the diversity.
All right. But you just can't find, where do you find, people of color who are theologians and activists? I mean,
where do you find them?
It's so hard to find.
Do they even exist?
I don't know. Hasn't all theology come from the luscious, wonderful brains of white Europeans?
Well, yes, it has, actually. I have a PhD on that.
Okay. You were actually quiet, but you were playing on your phone.
I said nothing.
I was timing.
He's playing Candy Crush.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't do Candy Crush.
Don't invite me to that game.
Okay. Now, do you have something to say?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
Nope.
good.
I just want to retweet you.
Okay. Maybe we should quiz them.
This is a public service announcement that diversity is just a code word for tolerance.
So
True.
what's
Got it.
round 2 of this game?
Maybe we should quiz them and see if they
this
can
game
tell us
over yet?
5 people of color
We
theologians.
should ask them. Do they even know 5 POC theologians, activists, or ethicists?
Oh.
And you can't use Mickey and I.
No, you got to ask the scholar over there. I just talk about pop culture.
Yeah, but
Just
everybody's
talk
a
about
theologian,
pop culture.
It's all him.
right?
Sure. I don't know. What am I supposed to say?
Okay, you're speechless. I just want to name that.
Oh.
The white man to my left, which is always the best place to be. He's speechless.
To the left, to the left.
All the theologians with color to the left.
There you go. That's right. Somebody.
Do you want to
got it.
try? No, he's not paying attention. We're going to do the next one. Next round. We have 4 minutes.
Oh,
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Okay.
But on Latinx time, that means like 30. So keep going.
Right. Keep going. So the next thing is the sacredness of the silent disco.
Sacred space.
The sacred space.
Sacred space.
Because I have just been named officially priestess of the silent disco.
And as everyone knows, I'm Mickey's disciple, beloved disciple, the one that Mickey loves.
It's true.
We're not going to interpret
so
that.
So as an ethicist,
Yep.
Can you talk about the ethics of the twerk?
In the same vein that God is not necessary, the twerk is most necessary.
It's true. It is true.
I'm just saying, my people salsa, y'all people twerk.
Right. And this is actually, and this is not a joke, it is actually a sacred ancient dance that you can find throughout the diaspora, right? So this is all about that embodied, right? That embodied theology.
Well, and to get theological, since
you
talked, since your timer is still running, as an undergrad, I have these 3 degrees in theology, and my minor in college, it may not count anywhere else, but it was biblical languages, right? So when we think about sarks and we think about flesh, the silent disco is that place of advent for sarks. That is the place of becoming.
Junk.
That'll hunt.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Wait. Up. I did not give you permission
I didn't hear a
to
ding.
speak. I didn't give them permission to speak.
No,
And they're already.
y'all on a short chain.
Yes.
Ding.
I'm going to put my muzzle on you.
2 minutes.
I had to use it last night.
I need 30 seconds at the end.
Okay,
Trip
we
is
have-
asking for 30 seconds.
I have no opinion.
I'll give him 10.
We have 2. We have 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
What's it?
Do you have another round, or should we let
Let's
him
keep
wrap
going
up?
with your
Okay,
list.
one
I
more
like
round.
your list. I like your list.
Okay, let's talk about how there are more unicorns and fairies at Wild Goose than people of color.
The number of unicorns, in particular at Beers and Hymns, that are not at the silent disco. Okay.
Come on, unicorn, step it up.
Yes. And I'm all for Comic-Con and those like kink festivals and whatnot where you show up in your spirit animal. But look, the unicorn is like the prized like idol for queer and POCs.
Right.
Why are there more unicorns than queer, trans, and POCs?
I don't know. I'm confused. What's the theological answer to that? Like,
well,
what's
we have 30 seconds, so clearly we should toast at the end.
What are we going to toast to? Sarge?
We should all stand up.
Absolutely.
And y'all should stand up, too, because participation is an essential element of bringing Sarksy back. And now we should all ordain one to another. May you take every inch of your body, bring that Sarksiness back, and if you have a unicorn head, bring it to the silent disco tonight, because it shall be an Advent experience of the inbreaking of God's embrace of each little piece of our fleshliness.
Advent of becoming.
And then you'll realize you burn 500 calories, and you can have a cool-down beer with me in the elevator. Peace out. Thank you for hanging out for the 1000th episode.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Everyone give the friends a hand.
Yes. Get your sacred twerk on.